Perhaps the most famous or infamous of all the world's mysterious places is the Bermuda Triangle. For decades, this stretch of ocean covering over 500,000 square miles, located between Miami, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda, has baffled scientists, experienced sailors, and even military investigators.
Planes disappearing, various kinds of strange lights being seen, a whole bunch of weirdness, all conglomerating into this very tight corner of the Atlantic.
Ships that have shown up absolutely empty, no sign of any struggle, and yet the crew has just vanished.
This is something that's very real. They exist in records, and now that they're all gone in fair weather, that is not a supernatural phenomenon to me. That is something unexplained.
What caused ships and planes to disappear without a trace? Why has aeronautical and navigational equipment stopped working or changed course by itself? Historical shipping records show that the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle are much older than many people realize. Ever since the earliest days of oceanic exploration, sailors have witnessed strange sights.
Really, the awareness of the Bermuda Triangle started with Christopher Columbus. Being such an esoteric navigator and a well-respected sailor, his log traversing to the New World is very accurate. And it turns out, just as Columbus got into the area known as the Bermuda Triangle, he recorded having compass malfunctions. The following night, he saw a large fireball hit the ocean.
He saw strange lights, he saw strange weather phenomena happening there. So it's definitely a case that the story of the Bermuda Triangle is not just some modern or some urban myth at the threshold of the 21st century. It is as old as there are accounts of people going into that area.
About 450 years after Columbus, on December 5th, 1945, the U.S. military experienced the Bermuda Triangle's most perplexing mystery. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers flew from a naval base in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on a routine training exercise. But not long into the 2-hour mission, all 5 planes were suddenly gone. The mystery was compounded when the Navy sent out a rescue plane, and it too disappeared. 6 planes, all flown by skilled pilots, had vanished into oblivion.
That struck everybody as very odd. This was now the modern era. We have radar, we have radio. Still, 5 aircraft vanished.
Now the question is, where have all of them gone? It really is as if they have been snapped out of our reality into something else. And of course, what that something else is, that's the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle.
Over the years, few have lived to tell of any strange anomalies that have occurred to them in the Bermuda Triangle. But American pilot Bruce Gernon is an exception. In 1970, Gernon, his father, and a business associate were flying from the Bahamas to Florida when Gernon reported seeing a strange cloud directly out in front of their plane. Then, as he approached, Gernon claims the cloud formed a donut-shaped hole, or vortex.
The tunnel was huge at first, but then it started getting smaller rapidly. And when I penetrated into the tunnel, an incredible thing happened. These lines instantly formed. It was like looking down a rifle barrel because the lines were swirling slowly counterclockwise. I encountered some intense electricity. There were like flashes going on and off. And all I could see was this strange, grayish, yellowish fog. I call it electronic fog. I noticed that my instruments were malfunctioning, and at the same time, I'm feeling this unbelievable sensation.
Gernon says when he finally exited the tunnel, he radioed Miami Air Traffic Control, but they couldn't find his plane on their radar screen.
And then, about 3 minutes later, the radar controller came back on the radio, and he's all excited. he had identified me over Miami, and I couldn't believe it because I'd only been flying for 33 minutes. It should have been more like an hour and 3 minutes.
Could such a discrepancy in time and location really happen? And could extraterrestrials be using this kind of gateway to travel to Earth? According to Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity, it is possible.
Through Einstein's principles of being able to bend space using a gravitational pull, it's very possible that extraterrestrial craft could somehow get a higher charge of energy from these locations like the Bermuda Triangle, which allow them to do a burst of energy, if you will, a warp speed, and harness some type of extra particles or energies from these locations to get them where they're trying to go.
On December the 4th, 1970, almost 25 years to the day after the disappearance of Flight 19, a pilot by the name of Bruce Gernon was in an aircraft flying between Andros Island and the island of Bimini when he had an absolute incredible experience.
The controls on his plane also went crazy. He felt in the end that somehow he had been in the Bermuda Triangle when it was activated. Since that time, researchers have been trying to find out exactly what happened during that flight.
In March 2018, ancient astronaut theorist and author David Childress traveled to an airfield in West Palm Beach, Florida, to meet face-to-face with one of the very few men who experienced the strange power of the Bermuda Triangle and survived.
So what is our plan today?
Well, we're going to recreate our flight that I had in 1970. And I can show you on the chart here. We're going to go direct from Palm Beach right to this curved area of Andros Island on the western shore. And we're going to go down to 1,000 feet at this point. And that's where my experience in 1970 began. I am the only living person that has flown through the heart of it and then exited what I call a time tunnel vortex and survived.
So have you ever retraced your flight?
I've never been on the exact flight path that I was when I had this event. And that's what I'd like to take you through today, the exact flight path.
Into the Bermuda Triangle, and this isn't a one-way flight, is it?
No, sir. We'll be back.
Okay, I'm ready.
So Bruce, it was 1970, and you were flying out of Andros. Who was with you on this flight?
My dad and our business partner was with us, and it was a routine flight, but this is the area where I took off and started my ascent. I was at 1,000 feet, just like we are right now. I started climbing straight out over that bank right there. Here it is.
Got it? Okay.
I don't know, it looks kind of eerie here. There's nothing much around, is there? Very remote area of the Bahama Bank. Whoa, what was that?
Did you feel that?
There it is. Right there.
That was the weird.
Oh, did you catch that?
Something we should maybe. Okay, it's out of control. It's okay, guys. We just hit a rough spot. We just got a little turbulence here.
It's turbulence.
How about that? Yeah. Wow. I have to admit, I'm actually glad that we didn't vanish.
That's right in this exact area here where it did that.
Oh, a premonition, maybe.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, no. All right, so did you think that anything strange was going to happen to you that day?
No, I had no premonitions, but this strange cloud formed right in front of us, and it was like a lenticular-shaped cloud, but it was just sort of hovering there, and it did look a little strange. As soon as I got over it, it started expanding, and then before you know it, I'm inside the cloud. And so now I can't see anything. Visibility was near zero. There was lightning in there. There was flashes of light. These flashes got more and more intense the deeper we went in it. It got darker too. It's almost like night and day. My co-pilot, my dad, he said, maybe we ought to turn around and go back to Andros. I didn't want to turn around and go back through this cloud. That was freaking me out, you know? It would have been worse.
There was no turning back, you felt.
I said to my dad, well, hold on, not yet.
Rather than turning back for land, Bruce decided to pull out of the cloud that the plane had become immersed in and continued on his flight path. But when he came out of the cloud, he realized that the situation was even more incredible than he first thought. His plane was surrounded on all sides by a giant storm, and there appeared to be no way out.
I felt like we were trapped inside this strange storm. And then I noticed a big tunnel about a mile wide and 10 miles long. So I said, all right, we'll go through that. You know, my dad agreed. When we entered the tunnel, an incredible thing happened. A series of clouds formed a swirling line that was slowly rotating counterclockwise. It felt like we were hydroplaning. Somehow we were at zero gravity, we were floating and going forward somehow. And I came out of the tunnel, I looked back behind, and I watched the tunnel collapse. The radar controller comes back on the microphone, and he's yelling really loud. He's all excited. He says, I got an airplane directly over Miami Beach. So I look at my watch. Now, I got another 30 minutes to go here. I'm at least 80 miles east of you guys, I tell him. But then I look down, and now there's Miami Beach right below me. I traveled 100 miles in only 3 minutes.
100 miles? In 3 minutes? Bruce's plane would have to have been traveling 2,000 miles per hour to cross that distance in such a short amount of time. A speed that his small plane was not even remotely capable of.
But the people on the plane, except for a little bit of mist and fog around them, they don't really notice anything strange is happening.
No, they didn't notice anything strange, but all their watches were set back 20 minutes. I believe now that what was happening was I was seeing the fabric of time. And I believe that is what creates the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle.
Fort Lauderdale, Florida, December 5th, 1945. 5 Navy Avenger bombers flying due east on a routine training mission encounter something strange over the Bermuda Islands. About an hour and a half into the flight, Squadron Leader Lieutenant Charles Taylor sends a radio transmission that his 2 onboard compasses have become inoperable.
Everybody got totally confused as to where they were. They were totally lost in an area where they should not have been lost. A whole squadron of US Navy aircraft just vanished. The fact that it was in this particular area obviously has given rise to the theory, could they have been abducted?
3 hours later, a rescue aircraft, a TBY, Mariner with a crew of 11 aboard, disappeared with no trace. And what that caused is one of the most extensive search and rescue operations in the annals of the United States Navy. And they never found a life preserver, a piece of a wing, or anything from those aircraft, nothing. And to this day, we have no clue as to what happened.
But Flight 19 is only one incident in allegedly hundreds that have claimed victims in what is commonly referred to as the Bermuda Triangle. And according to ancient astronaut theorists, this site, which spans a 500,000 square mile area between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, plays host to numerous unexplained physical and metaphysical phenomena. Strange energies that may help to explain why pilots, sailors, and ship captains enter the area and are never seen or heard from again.
So you have to wonder, what's happening to these people?
Is there something about the Bermuda Triangle? It's some kind of portal that aliens are using to come and go through hyperspace. And suddenly, you and your yacht or you and your plane are sucked into some other dimension. And you're not coming back.
The Bermuda Triangle is interesting for a number of reasons. First of all, it's not just one plane which goes missing somewhere. This is several planes which all disappear. Now the question is, where have all of them gone? It's not just the case that on occasion one of them is found. Really, an awful lot of what has gone missing in the Bermuda Triangle has never been seen, has never been heard of.
If an aircraft is flying over or a ship's sailing the ocean at the wrong time, could it pull them down underneath the water? So, we're looking at possibly not abductions into the sky, but actually below the ocean.
Ancient astronaut theorists say the legend of the lost city of Atlantis may be connected to the possible abductions in the Bermuda Triangle. According to legends, the island of Atlantis was an enormous ancient power that thrived as far back as 9600 BC.
The story of Atlantis, which is one of the most famous mysteries from antiquity, the earliest sources we have on it is Plato. And the city was known for being a sort of a technological marvel in its own right. And at some point, for reasons that are not entirely clear, there was an eruption of some sort and the city disappeared.
We have no archaeological artifacts from Atlantis, and we don't know if it's just mythology. So is it possible, either through evil intentions or by accident, they sunk to the bottom of the ocean in the Bermuda area? And that's why we're experiencing, or pilots experiencing, all kinds of electrical interference when they fly over the Bermuda Triangle.
Vernon, France, August 24th, 1954. In this small town outside of Paris, numerous eyewitnesses report several mysterious oval-shaped craft above the Seine River, traveling at great speeds before suddenly vanishing into thin air. It is the first of more than 300 UFO incidents that would take place in France during the year. Journalist Amy Michel begins studying the reported flight paths of many of these accounts and makes an astonishing observation.
All these UFO sightings appeared to move in dead straight lines, often crisscrossing, and as he kept getting reports coming in and he kept plotting them, he kept finding the same system happening, the same lines, the same movements of these UFOs.
In 1958, Michel published his research in a book called Flying Saucers and the Straight Line Mystery. In the book, he introduced a principle he called orthoteny, which held that clusters of UFO activity over a short period of time usually occur along straight lines that often intersect.
What Amy Michel started to realise was that there seemed to be a pattern in where these objects were appearing and also their flight paths. He saw that they actually used specific lanes which he felt were connected with the magnetic forces of the Earth.
He's noticing that these UFOs are traveling in straight lines using latitudes, and that in fact this can be extrapolated into an entire grid that encapsulates the entire planet.
Is it possible that Amy Michel successfully identified a grid pattern across the Earth of highly magnetized regions that have come to be known as UFO hotspots? Ancient astronaut theorists believe that further clues can be found by examining an area that has become notorious for mysterious phenomena and strange disappearances: the Bermuda Triangle.
With the Bermuda Triangle, it is an irrefutable fact that planes and ships of various sizes have disappeared without a trace. You also have UFO and UAP stories.
In the last century, roughly 50 ships and 20 airplanes have vanished without a trace within this infamous 500,000 square mile stretch of the Atlantic Ocean. According to Scottish biologist and paranormal researcher Ivan T. Sanderson, the Bermuda Triangle is just one of a strange and disturbing kind of UFO hotspot that he described as the world's 12 vile vortices.
He was able to identify, he believed, certain spots like the Bermuda Triangle, the Dragon's Triangle, places like the Great Pyramid and other huge monument areas, and there was activity going on at these places. Disappearing ships and airplanes, UFO activity, lights and unusual phenomena that were occurring constantly.
In his 1972 article entitled The 12 Devil's Graveyards Around the World, Sanderson mapped these sites at equidistant points above and below the equator and discovered they formed a mysterious geometrical pattern on the Earth's surface.
There are 12 of these across the globe. Now, 5 of them are within the Tropic of Cancer, 5 of them within the Tropic of Capricorn, the other 2, the North Pole and the South Pole. What's interesting is if you connect all of these through the sphere of our globe, they make an icosagon, or a 20-sided polygon. So this is showing us how all of these type of hotspots are connected to each other.
The hotspot sites Sanderson identified share more than just a unique history and geometry. Many of these so-called vile vortices have strong magnetic anomalies caused by variations or disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field.
If you take a look at the Earth has a magnetic field like a bar magnet. The field of the magnetism comes out from the North Pole and goes into the South Pole. It comes from the fact that inside the Earth there is churning electricity. And we now know that there are anomalies there.
It's as if our entire Earth is one gigantic battery. And if one were to argue that the entire planet is a battery, well, what's it used for? I think our planet could serve to power whatever exotic device extraterrestrials use to get here and leave.
The coast of Florida, January 2015. The crew of a Navy F-18 fighter jet fly into restricted airspace and encounter an airborne object directly in their flight path. They aim their forward-looking infrared camera at the object and capture it in flight.
F-18s were chasing this thing, and they couldn't catch it. The UAP is doing things that modern aerodynamic vehicles can't do.
The pilots in pursuit of the unidentified craft observed that it performed unusual maneuvers unlike any military aircraft they had ever witnessed, and all while flying at high velocities.
One of the impressive aspects of it is that it's moving against the wind, and you can hear the pilots say this.
Look at that thing, dude. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
It doesn't lose speed, and it rotates mechanically against the wind. This gimbal footage is one of the rare pieces of physical evidence that is corroborated directly by individuals who are out there on the East Coast documenting these things. It is highly impressive.
Now, modern day aircraft can yaw and pitch, and they can roll, but they can't simply pitch straight up and continue to move forward into the line of flight. This thing does that. It's moving extremely fast, and it's accelerating much faster than the F-18s can. So that in itself is a feat that mankind has yet to accomplish.
We tried to vet this for a long time. What's uncomfortable is that we haven't figured it out, that we don't know whose technology this is. If you can't identify someone that's far more advanced than you technologically, Houston, we have a problem.
The object was dubbed gimbal due to its ability to rotate on an axis. But for ancient astronaut theorists, just as intriguing as the way it moves is the object's shape.
The craft itself is an acorn-shaped craft. Immediately, that's reminiscent of what the ancient Indian text described as the Vimana, which were acorn-shaped craft.
In the Mahabharata and in many of the ancient Vedic texts, they speak about the so-called Vimanas. The Vimanas were flying vehicles with which to reach the celestial realm.
In the ancient Sanskrit epics of India, there are highly detailed descriptions of the Vimana, which carried the gods and other important figures through the sky, and sometimes to other planets. The acorn-shaped craft were even incorporated at the very top of many Hindu temples. And some researchers believe they also inspired similar Buddhist structures called stupa.
If we go to Indonesia and look at Borobudur, where we have 194 stupas sitting in concentric circles, each stupa, in my opinion, represents a type of flying craft, because stupa actually means celestial chariot, or a way with which to reach the celestial realm. And they are in the shape of the so-called Vimanas.
Often the Vimana were described as war machines, armed with incredible weapons.
There are tales of flying craft that could defy gravity and fly at extraordinary speeds that defy the laws of physics. These were military in usage, had powerful engines and powerful weapons. In these battles, missiles would fire that could wipe out cities. These were the earliest stories we have of flying military craft.
In the Indian text, the Vimanas are the chariots or craft of the gods. They were clearly a method of transportation that could take the gods from place to place, country to country, and even to other planets. They're sometimes described as bright clouds. Some of them are 7 stories tall.
In 1895, Sanskrit scholar Shivkar Tampada decided to fashion an aircraft based solely on information gleaned from the ancient Indian writings about the Vimana. While the story is hotly disputed, he allegedly tested the craft in front of an audience of thousands of people on a beach in Bombay.
The legend has it that he flew for like 30 seconds at 1,500 feet. The Wright brothers only went 120 feet for 12 seconds. But even more exciting is that this is technology based on a scripture written thousands of years before mankind ever had the idea of heavier than air flight. How is this possible?
According to the Hindu text, the crafts were mind-controlled, able to change direction and pitch and travel at high speeds, defying our current knowledge of aeronautical physics.
What's really cool is that these modern-day UFO videos show that these vehicles are capable of ridiculous maneuvers. They can just stop or change direction immediately at G-forces that we could not survive. In the Vimanika Shastra, which describes what these Vimanas were capable of doing, the exact same descriptions exist. The fact that we have similar stories in ancient times illustrates to me something similar has happened.
Rachel, Nevada, September 2019. To further investigate what might be hidden at the secret Area 51 base, former British Ministry of Defense officer Nick Pope and filmmaker Jeremy Corbell have enlisted the help of local resident Jorg Arnu. Jorg, who has lived in nearby Rachel, Nevada for 15 years, has been a first-hand witness to Area 51's recent history.
What's the strangest interaction you've seen of people coming in or out of the base?
Heavy construction equipment going into the base when they were doing construction. And also sometimes you see military vehicles being dragged into the base. They set them up inside the bombing ranges for shooting targets. Just pull over here. Okay. There's a sheriff's vehicle coming our way. We don't want any trouble. We don't want to block them. Okay. We don't want to go any further.
This is extra security. I don't think we've ever seen quite this much.
In light of the tension surrounding the Storm Area 51 event, the military has implemented a zero-tolerance lockdown at the gate of the secret base.
So, here we are. I think this is about as far as we can go. The point of no return, right?
Yes, we cannot go any further.
All this barbed wire here, all these security measures, this is the point at which, if you take one step further, the full force of security will come down on us, right?
Make no mistake, we step one step into their territory and everything is going to change.
If I came up here, is anybody going to talk to me? Are they going to say anything to me?
No. These are signs that spell out in plain English, bad things are going to happen to you if you cross this line.
Right.
It's very clear.
So now look, if we walked past that barrier, up that road, what would we see? What would we find?
We would be walking down about 20 miles, a paved road, into the valley that Area 51 is located in. In between here and the base, there's more security checkpoints, there's more road sensors. If you were to get to Area 51, you're standing there and you look around and it looks like any other military Air Force base. But the good stuff is all in hangars. It is not out in the open. It's not like, you know, they got the saucer right there on the runway.
So there are hangars, obviously, but there are even rumors of huge underground facilities, facilities carved into the sides of the mountains.
There are people that talk about underground facilities. They keep tabs on people that watch the base. They know exactly when somebody's up on Tikaboo Peak, for instance, one of the view spots of the base.
Located 26 miles from the Area 51 base, Tikaboo Peak is the only public land where people can actually see the Groom Lake runway and hangars.
And they know exactly, okay, right now is a good moment to fly our good stuff, and that's when they bring out the good stuff. I've actually been on Tikaboo Peak when they did a test flight, and it was the most amazing thing. We look at the base, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, all the runway lights come on. I mean, it's the most amazing thing to watch. All of a sudden, the desert in front of you, below you, becomes alive. You see a light taxiing to the runway, the light takes off, the runway lights go out, that light goes out, and that was the end of that. I mean, literally feet above the runway, the lights just went out.
That's ultra high security. I mean, whatever that thing was, clearly they were really trying to protect it and minimizing that anyone could get eyes on it.
Correct.
Washington, D.C., April 2011. The FBI releases thousands of files as part of its online FBI vault. One particular file draws the attention of the media and independent researchers. The memo, dated March 22, 1950, is a briefing to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover regarding informant information about 3 flying saucers that were recovered in New Mexico. Investigators immediately connect the memo to the infamous Roswell incident, a purported UFO crash that many people believe was covered up by the military in 1947. But this document is just the latest in a series of government files that have been released in recent years, suggesting there may be more to the Roswell crash than the public was told.
As an investigative reporter, I think what I am amazed by is how many leaked documents from the 1940s have actually come out into the world and lay out details about what really happened at Roswell. On July 4th, a rancher named Mac Brazel finds all kinds of strange silver debris. He knows he doesn't understand what he's walking through. He decides to go into Roswell and tell the sheriff something has crashed on my ranch. Intel coming out of Roswell Army Airfield get assigned to go to the debris field. And these men are told that they are to pick up every single thing that is in the debris field on the Mac Brazel Ranch. Everything is to be picked up.
On July 8, 1947, the headline on the front page of the Roswell Daily Record reports that the military had retrieved a flying saucer. But the following day, the official story is suddenly changed to suggest it was nothing more than a failed weather balloon.
Roswell was the home of the 509th Bomb Group. This was the only atomic bomb-capable squadron anywhere in the world. These people were the best of the best. The idea that intelligence personnel at this base would mistake a weather balloon for something exotic is preposterous. So that, arguably, is the start of the UFO cover-up.
Weather balloon, swamp gas, meteorite, it doesn't matter. It's always something else but a UFO. The Roswell crash was covered up. The fact that they retracted the story of having captured a flying saucer, in my opinion, it was quick PR damage control.
World was told, nope, just a weather balloon. And for more than 30 years, that's where it was left, until witnesses started to surface, saying, no, it was actually an extraterrestrial craft. And the people saw alien bodies.
The Minuteman Missile National Historic Site, South Dakota, June 28, 2019. Giorgio Tsoukalos is with former Air Force Commander Robert Salas at a decommissioned nuclear launch site that is identical to one at Malmstrom Air Force Base, where Salas had a UFO encounter in 1967.
So after the object flew away, what happened next? The missiles come back online?
We had to bring maintenance crews out to go through a very intricate procedure to bring them back up online. Within 24 hours, we had our missiles back up.
And then was there a debriefing or was there a discussion?
We were ordered to our squadron commander's office right away. And I said, what the hell happened out there? And he said, I don't know. I asked him specifically, could it have been some kind of an Air Force exercise? And he said, absolutely not. And then the guy next to him, he shoved this paper in our faces, sign here. I said, what is this? And he said, this is a non-disclosure statement about the incident. You are never to speak about it to anybody.
So you were given an order?
We were ordered to sign it, yeah. And that was it. I could not speak about this, and I didn't speak about this to anyone for about 27 years.
Some believe that the ability of UFOs to shut down nuclear missiles poses a grave threat to national security, and that the Malmstrom incident suggests the aliens had a hostile intent. But Robert Salas believes it shows the opposite. The intruders were demonstrating their concern for mankind.
They did not damage the missiles. They did not hurt anybody. If they had some kind of a weapon, they did not use it against any of the guards. So all it was to me was a message, and the message was get rid of your nukes. They will not help you in any way advance your civilization.
Right. Over the years, you thought about this, and essentially it was a warning that this is not the way to go.
Exactly, exactly.
Robert Salas and his commanders saw that all 10 missiles, one by one, went offline. Now, this is something that the Air Force later deemed could not be possible because all of these missiles are all independent. So the likelihood of someone being able to manipulate this is almost zero. And I say almost zero because clearly somebody did it. I could feel the emotion by Robert, and for over 20 years he has investigated this, and there are dozens of similar examples.